Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. The Steelers' first day of OTA practices took place on Tuesday, so Alex and I go over everything notable from that momentous event. We discuss the four veteran players, OLB TJ Watt, WRDK Metcalf, CB Darius Slay, and G. Isaac Sumalo, who were reportedly absent from the voluntary Tuesday OTA practice. Alex and I go over the overall health of the Steelers at the start of OTAs and how it was great to see several players who dealt with injuries last season back on the practice field. QB Mason Rudolph was one of several players who met the media on Tuesday, so we go over what he had to say. We also go over the notable things that several other players said after Tuesday's first OTA practice. Former Steelers QB Terry Bradshaw had a lot to say during a Tuesday radio interview, so Alex and I make sure to review what the Hall of Famer said about the Steelers and their pursuit of free agent QB Aaron Rodgers. Bradshaw isn't a huge fan of Rodgers, so we cover that aspect as well as what he said about the Steelers and their handling of QB Kenny Pickett when he was with the team. Is it possible that the Steelers do indeed have some level of interest in trading for Atlanta Falcons QB Kirk Cousins, and especially if they are unable to sign Rodgers? Alex and I discuss Cousins not being present for the start of Falcons OTAs on Tuesday and why June 1st could be a huge date on the calendar when it comes to Atlanta possibly trading him. Alex and I go over the timeline of the Steelers' situation with Rodgers, which has now exceeded 2 months since he met with the organization in Pittsburgh. We discuss if Rodgers really will play for just $10 million in 2025 and how him possibly not signing with the Steelers until after mandatory minicamp just stinks overall. We also discuss how many more wins Rodgers would be worth to the Steelers versus Rudolph being the starter. This 94-minute episode also discusses several other minor topics not noted in the recap. We end this show by answering several emails we received from listeners of the show. Colin Cowherd thinks the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers have one commonality. They aren't taking their situation seriously. The Steelers still don't have their quarterback depth chart set and Rodgers remains without a team. As the 2025 OTAs begin this week with clubs coming together for full off-season workouts, Pittsburgh remains in the same holding pattern it has sat in since mid-March. Waiting on Rodgers to determine if and when he'll join. Cowherd spent part of his Wednesday show blasting both camps for their nonchalant nature. Neither take the duty of quarterback with great urgency, he said on FS1's The Herd. Both the Steelers and Aaron have a "yeah, we'll get to it eventually. I'll sign with the team eventually. We'll figure out the quarterback eventually." Our latest videos publicly, the Steelers have showed little alarm over their unusually long wait. Mike Tomlin has publicly downplayed the need for a Rodgers answer this spring, remarking during owner meetings that training camp is when teams need clarity. Reporting locally and nationally indicates the team is willing to wait until the start of the season should it take that long. Such a timeline feels unlikely, but then again, few predicted this saga to remain ongoing back in March. Cowherd pointed to the Buffalo Bills and San Francisco 49ers as teams doing the right things to prepare. Josh Allen in his prime, better at this point, arguably better ever. More committed, is at his team OTAs, he said. "I think about San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan. They just signed Brock Purdy to a massive deal. And yet this year in the draft, Kyle Shanahan says, 'I want another quarterback.' And they draft this kid out of Indiana." Cowherd is referring to 7th-round pick Curtis Rourke, who will fight for a backup job this summer. Pittsburgh drafted a quarterback, too, selecting Will Howard in the 6th round. A strong value pick already bringing plenty of buzz about his future and potential, though the Steelers don't have plans to play him early in his career. For Rodgers, OTAs and off-season practices may not mean much. But they mean a lot to a young group around him losing out on opportunities to work with him. Most if not every other starting quarterback in the NFL is attending his team's voluntary OTA sessions. Comparatively, Pittsburgh is behind. For a team already lagging in a competitive AFC North, there's only more ground to make up. Pittsburgh is banking on the juice being worth the squeeze. The idea that waiting on Rodgers is still the best path for the Steelers to compete and win. But the longer their wait lasts, the more valid the criticisms thrown their way becomes. ESPN insider Adam Schefter believes the Pittsburgh Steelers are at the mercy of Aaron Rodgers and would wait until Week 1 for him to sign. The Q&A session told me that it certainly seems like he's coming back to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, by the way, continue to just wait and wait and wait, Schefter said on ESPN radio. It's amazing that a proud organization would be at the mercy of a player like this and just waiting for an answer from him. Schefter has routinely floated mandatory minicamp as Rodgers' decision date and continues to do so, saying he expects a decision within the next 2 weeks. However, with Rodgers, nothing is for sure, and he notably skipped the Jets' mandatory minicamp last year for a pre-planned trip to Egypt. Their first game is not until September 7th when they play the New York Jets, Schefter said. So I would say they're willing to wait until September 7th, for Rodgers. Of course, Rodgers will likely have decided whether to retire by then, which could pivot them to another option, but the Steelers seem content to give Rodgers space and wait. In his latest interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, Rodgers may have just revealed and hinted at the issues he hopes to resolve in his personal life. Rodgers said multiple people in his life are dealing with serious illnesses, including cancer. I figured it out during the last year when I've been in the weeds with these people who are close to me that have cancer, Rodgers said. That is taking a personal toll on Rodgers, who discussed non-conventional treatment options on the podcast. Still, he offered no certain timetable for a decision and seemed focused on his personal life first before anything else. Either way, Rodgers was the talk of the first OTA session, and he has still yet to sign a deal.